We're calling, this is Ukiah Valley Sanitation District special meeting. It is a budget workshop on Monday, July 22nd, 2019 at 6 p.m. The district office on Laws Avenue, and the time is 6:17. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I am taking minutes.
Even Chelsea couldn't make it.
No.
Oh,
Okay, and I'll take roll call. So, Chair is present, Director Reed is absent, and Director Bakken is absent per prior arrangement. Director Whiff?
Here.
Director Marshall?
Present.
Okay, we have enough for quorum. The next item on the agenda is public expression of non-agendized items. Board welcome participation in the board meeting. Comments shall be limited so that everyone may be heard. This item is limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the board, which are not posted on the agenda. We have a brand new podium for you to come up to and speak at if you would like. And you get 3 minutes, your discretion to speak on whatever you would like. So, gentlemen, anybody care to speak on a non-agendized item?
I don't think so.
Nope, seeing none, we'll move on, thank you. Budget, so item number 3 is discussion only for the 1920 district operating budget. And I'm going to pass the conversation on to Mark, who is our fiscal guy sitting here.
So the budget's in front of you. It's been prepared in accordance with, I think, how the district budget has been prepared over the last number of years. Most of the categories, I think, are well known to everyone in these groupings. And I think there's some notable changes, especially compared to the budget as well as to the actuals for fiscal year ending June 30, 2019. And maybe the best way to go through this is we'll just hit the top lines, and I think if there's questions as we work through, we'll entertain those, and we can work our way through the budget. And with the idea, I think, for everybody on the board is to have an understanding what's in the numbers and some of the underlying assumptions that may be there. For the district manager, the budget is a little under $50,000 this year. That's really based on the contract that the district has entered in with Willow to take over the management of the district's affairs.
May I comment on that item?
Certainly, as much as you want.
It's $3,200 a month, right?
$3,250.
$3,250 a month for 6 months, and then because there is a 6-month review,
Okay.
and if he's taking on more work than he thought, we budgeted for $5,000 a month for the last 6 months.
Good.
So that's why that is
Yeah.
at $49,500. Okay.
Great. The interim district manager position disappears as a result of the contract with Willow. Not anticipated that will be there. The district will continue to have an administrative assistant secretary and an office assistant. There are some increases in there. I think maybe anticipated workloads.
Just a little cushion.
I don't think that there's any plans by the district to have any big changes there.
No.
But there's cushions put in there as well, and then the employer contributions are just those taxes that the district will pay on behalf of their employees. So the personnel and wages are down significantly from what's anticipated, I think, in prior years, and certainly last fiscal year, as well as even down from actual, what's anticipated to be the year into actual. So, and you have a good seasoned team in there, so I think it's, unless there's any questions, it's pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Office expenses, pretty much self-descriptive. The only thing, you can go down the list. I think if you have a question about what's in any of those, we can entertain that, but really, they've been historically at levels, at these same levels, and there's nothing in this budget that is unique to that. The only thing that I have to bring up, and that I should have caught this before the meeting, is dues and subscriptions. I think there is LAFCO in dues and subscription, because
Yes.
there's a line item under other professional and special services for LAFCO also for $9,100.
Oh,
So
so
there-
the dues, so that,
Unless there's two different things there, we may be able to.
the dues and subscriptions under office expenses, that 10,621 is LAFCO and CSDA.
Okay.
So-
And then it's 90,
so- Right,
okay,
so we need to reduce, just eliminate other professional special services under LAFCO, because really that's, it's not a choice we have, it is a due, it's a fee.
but we have it in here twice.
Yeah, so it is
Okay.
twice, so we'll just subtract that out,
Take it out of the other professional services.
Okay,
yeah. And that did actually go down a little bit from last year to this year, as you can see.
yeah,
Because we already got the bill, so we know that
so
for a
it's enough.
fact.
Great,
Yeah.
great.
The office equipment in there, there is an increase. Is there a particular piece of equipment that was made up the difference? Do you know?
In office equipment, there's an increase?
From 4,500?
That was the budget.
That was
on-
last year.
That was just the budget.
That, so the left, I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear, the far left-hand column, well, third left-hand column here, the first of the numbers were the budget for the fiscal year. The middle column is the actual, and the far right is the proposed budget. So
Okay.
actually, there was very little spent from office equipment, and what there may need to be in there is just an estimate. There really isn't any great plan for updating IT, whatever. I think
Okay.
right now, if it's something comes up that's needed, but that's really a placeholder for $1,500.
Okay.
Okay. So auditing and fiscal services, this is an area that has a lot of activity and some money, and there's been some, obviously some changes that are notable. So audit services and fiscal, financial statement preparation was a catch-all for the budget last year. It was $165,000, and then, as we know, that was for 5 years of financial statement preparation by CLA, and then auditing those 5 years from our auditors. The actual money, I think, right now, from what we can estimate or what has been estimated, will come under the $165,000. But for the budget, we wanted to keep the audit itself as a line item. So for the district's audit is $15,000. I believe it's $12,000 for the audit and $3,000 for some audit support from CLA. There's a budget item from them preparing the financial statements, but it's anticipated that at the year-end budget there will be some more activity. So the audit for next fiscal year is coming in at $1,500. $15,000. I was looking at the number below it. Auditing, bookkeeping services, again, we had budgeted $10,200. We weren't exactly sure last fiscal year how we were going. The district wasn't sure how they were going to constitute and do their accounting, if how much was going to be internal, how much was going to be done by different third parties. There is ongoing bookkeeping service that is provided to the district in terms of payroll. That will continue on, but that will be the only service under bookkeeping services will be the payroll for the 2 employees, part-time employees that the district currently has. Banking services are just banking charges and self-explanatory. The state controller's report is $1,500. I think that is for preparation for that report to submit to the SCO. Liability and property insurance has stayed, well, we put $8,200 in it. Last fiscal year, it came in at 76, so it's just an anticipation that there may be an increase of about $400 or $500. Financial review, monthly reports. The district has engaged with CLA to do the monthly financials. There are some other consulting fees in there to help look and review financials and budgets. But the lion's share of that is for CLA to do monthly reports, and those monthly reports will be given, of course, to the board, as well as to the reports that will need to be given to the city per the operating agreement. So it's the budget to actuals that we see, the support behind that. Every month you'll get a budget to actual from CLA. You'll get the supporting documents behind that, you being the district. That information will be given to the city monthly, and then it'll be also compiled quarterly as the operating agreement requires. And so it'll serve both of those purposes. And of course, at the year end, there's the work to tie everything out to make sure a little of that money is up in the audit services. And then there is some budget review work in there as well. Bond refinancing fiscal, $50,000 is probably a better description would also be as part of the billing and collection effort as it relates to the bonds. There will be work done by 2 firms that the district has engaged already. It's an estimate. Have really a difficult time anticipating, I think, what the amount would be, but I think this would be a fair top end if they were to look at some work in the billing and collection side, especially as it related to the bond financing. So I know that the district at prior meetings had approved the use of those folks under the direction of the district manager. So I mean, that will be managed that way, but this is just an estimate of what that may count. Hopefully it's, I don't know, it's just difficult to say. So that is items there. Any questions, or comments?
The rate study is not
Yeah.
on here
Right.
because of the way it gets paid. So the city pays Hildebrand the whole amount and then sends us an invoice to approve it when they do that.
Right.
And then they actually have our money, so they just take half of that, pay themselves half out of our account.
But,
So that's why it's not on here.
but don't we have to have it in our budget to reflect our expenses? I mean,
It's in their budget.
It's in the city's budget, so when they pass through the costs, like they do any of the other costs that come out of there, we'll get the bill through that. So when you get the monthly financial statements from CLA, there'll be the expenses line item from the city in that portion. Whatever it was incurred in that given month will be in there, so it'll be that number in there.
Yeah, and I think maybe 10,000 hit last fiscal year, but I think the brunt of it will be this fiscal year.
Yeah, so you can see certainly down from prior year's budget, down from actual, like I said, the audit, the monthly report CLA, as well as I think it's Stalker will be maybe helping with the budget in there, a small piece of that. And then the bond refinancing, which I think is better labeled, also related to the collection and billing side. So I think those are the notable items in there. If we go down to other professional and special services, engineering services, last year budgeted 20. We all spent close to $11,000, $20,000 was budgeted again. Mapping services, $1,000, nothing was spent. You never know. It's a small expenditure.
I think we put 1,000 in there because we have two
Possible.
possible annexations from landowners that want to annex into the district, and so in case we need some mapping services, we threw $1,000 in there. I don't know how much maps cost, neither does Mark, and so
I don't have it. Yeah.
if anybody has a better idea.
It's an unknown.
Not even sure if you need mapping services for the annexation. I don't know. If LAFCO does all the work and we reimburse LAFCO, you know, I know when things like that happen, LAFCO does send the district a bill, and then you have to pay that bill, so I don't know if this would be required or not, but just in there just in case.
To let you know it's coming.
That's, yeah, let it know.
And that is on their 1920 agenda, so.
So computer services, we have that, we're actually IT in two places, but this computer services and hardware is, we had budgeted 6,200, we spent roughly 2,200 this year, we budgeted 2,500. And again, this is really, we have a vendor in town that provides our services, and if we have any problems, they come in and help. If it's connections, whatever it is, it's sort of from tail to snout. They do sort of the IT work for us, they do, and if there's pieces that we need to acquire, we buy it from them. We think this is kind of a historic level and should serve well. PR newsletter, nothing is budgeted. Rate study, I think the chair just spoke to that. What we had in last fiscal year budgeted, what actually came through so far, at least it hit the books that we know of. And but as we said, next year we will be getting those from the city through theirs. Telecast.
Do we have an ETA for that? The rate study? Any idea on?
I don't know,
Will it be
Dave. Do
complete?
you?
Haven't heard. Okay.
I don't.
Dan, anybody know about the rate study?
Yeah, I mean, we have a bi-weekly call with them, the next one on Thursday, so we'll get an update. I know we're a couple months behind because of data issue.
What do you think about
Dave, maybe you could just communicate with the city and get us updated on that for our next meeting.
Sure,
Okay.
and the city's been really good at keeping us informed of these. What we have every other week, we have the
Thursday.
phone conferences every Thursday.
Okay.
So
We're just kind of in the same place as we were before.
we'll be participating. I'll be prepared to make a report.
Okay.
Telecast.
I don't even know what that is.
Is that Scott? Is that
No.
it? No?
No, I think that's.
Those telecast fell in.
I think that was software or web.
Yeah, so
So
telecast is nothing.
I think I think some of these descriptions sort of changed over the years, but there hasn't been any spending, and we just had a budgeted line item last year, and we kept it to show that it was budgeted, and there was no actual budgeted for this fiscal year. Board stipend, self-explanatory. Election fees, there's not an election in this fiscal year cycle, so there should be no election fees. Financial consulting contract is my contract if the board approves the budget to continue to aid and assist the budget in certain financial and fiscal matters. Publications, well, before we go down, any questions about any of the line items there? Okay, publication and legal notices, pretty self-explanatory. Budgeted 1,000, spent 100 this year. The district decided to budget 500. Legal fees, the district decided it would be best to break those out. These are estimates, difficult, I think for all the obvious reasons that the board and people that have been following this would understand. We tried to break it out into 3 sections that capture, I think, the main initiatives that are going on. So there's an estimate for bond refinancing. There is an estimate for budget contract disputes, resolutions, and arbitration. Really those matters under the operating agreement. And then there's the district legal support that we would characterize as sort of ongoing, normal legal contracts, coming to meetings, legal advice in the operational arenas. These are estimates. You would always hope that they're high, but this was the best guess, best estimate that we were able to obtain. I think that a lot of thought went into those, and again, we would all hope that they are high. And then below, so I don't know if there's any questions on the legal fees. As I said, there's a lot of unknowns and difficult to really pin those down. And the last category is the training and transportation. As you can see, there's travel to seminars, travel for district managers, staff training and development. Money budgeted, nothing spent last fiscal year. Money budgeted again this year will be up to the management and the board to decide if money will be spent in that area. So the budget comes to a total of $674,000 compared to the budget of $1,007,000 last fiscal year. And half of that, 674, is a little less than half is legal fees. So the operational fees are around that $340,000, $350,000 that I think has been historically the pattern in the past, closer to. And I think that's been the discussion that the board has had and some we've had with other parties, and I think this budget brings it in there, setting aside the legal fees at the moment. So that's kind of the makeup.
Any input, Dave?
No,
Okay.
thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I think whatever next steps, this will have to be approved. Budget will be with the city, that budget will have allocations
Right.
that will be for the whole system. We'll move all of that through, but this, I think, wanted everybody to have understanding of the underlying budget numbers and what were there going forward, and then we'll process that, and the board will approve it, and it'll be
Okay.
sent, yeah, hopefully, I
So,
guess I should
just-
say that, and sent on to the city.
Just based on these numbers, we'll get some feedback from you, Dave, on how much of your time is district only, not the whole system. Like, for instance, looking into the district taking over its own billing and collection, or the district paying off its bond. And then we'll try to just get a percentage and apply that, and have another column that will read, amount to total system, amount to district only, break down some of these numbers into allocations where the city isn't paying their share of, certain things there.
Okay.
So that's the next step before the board meeting, before our next board meeting.
Is it anticipated this will be on the board meeting for approval then?
Yes.
Excuse me, at the regular?
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
So this is a workshop, we're not voting on this tonight.
No, we're not.
This was just information gathering. and
Information
explanation.
gathering, asking questions, to have Mark here to go over, any of the numbers. We've all gotten the fiscal reports from last meeting, show where we're standing. This is pretty, if we can avoid these legal fees, if we can if we can get our budget dispute solved, and not
And
continue to have legal fees riled up because of disputing budgets with the city or disputing accounts with the city, I think this is really well below,
Major improvement.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the aspiration, and I think it sort of reflects that.
and also, we don't want to increase rates. We have no plan to increase rates. We have plenty of cash, right? We have plenty of cash coming in. So if we can actually lower our budget from last year, not just lower the budget, but lower our proposed budget to less than our actuals last year, that's really a step in the right direction for our ratepayers. That's fiscally responsible right there, and I think we're headed in the right direction with this. And hopefully our negotiations with the city will help resolve some of the budget and contract disputes, and we can be $200,000 lighter as well.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Now I have a couple of questions that aren't budget related.
Well, we can't talk about things that aren't budget related.
Okay.
It's the only thing on the agenda.
Some of these things we may not be seeing next year's budget, correct? Like
If it has a zero, then
the rate like the rate
Well,
study?
that's correct. That's a one-time. I think the operating agreement asks that to be done every 5 years.
Mhm.
But yes, so that should be a non-reoccurring, I would say.
Which is fantastic, because
I
it
know.
further reduces it.
Someone put an application in
Sure.
for service.
You can talk to David about it
Okay.
after.
Yeah, if there's any questions, call. Right, I guess,
Yeah.
or Dave,
Good.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
and just
Anybody?
so you know, the last budget, a lot of that, as Jeff explained last meeting, was the final attorney fees from our lawsuit. Those were one time. Those have already been paid.
Mhm.
We don't owe attorneys any money. So there is no rate increase due to attorney fees. That's done and paid for and behind us, and we're moving forward in the black. So I just want to clarify that, because that seems to be a misunderstanding in the newspaper and possibly in grand jury reports that rates are going to go up because we had this lawsuit. No, the lawsuit's paid for, the lawsuit's done, that money's been paid, and we're in the black. And we're lowering our budget to stay in the black and to, you know, help the ratepayers not.
Right.
Right. So, is there any more board discussion? If not, I'll open it up to public comment at this time. If that's all right with you guys?
Good.
Let's see, we have Sean and Mr. Dan Buffalo. Do either of you want to come up to the podium and make any comments at this time?
This time.
Okay. Alrighty, so we'll close public comment. Everybody take this home, study it, contact Mark if you have any questions on it, if you need more clarification on it. Dave, your homework is to look at the allocations. Yes, director. Oh, you don't have a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think I stood it up because it was sitting on my phone. Sorry.
All right, we are now adjourned at 6:44. Thank you.
Okay.